Hello and welcome to the Chippy Chicks. This is our January episode, the first episode of 2025. My name is Stacey Agdern, and I'm so proud to be here with Kelly Jamison, Melting, and Danica Flynn. Unfortunately, Fortune Whelan is out tonight, so we are all Flames fans in her honor. Um, this episode, I'm thinking of I think the best title for this episode, as far as I'm concerned, is Drama Drama Everywhere. I remember an ad a couple of years ago saying, "This isn't a soap opera, this is the NHL." And apparently, the last few months, everybody in the entire league is going to prove it wrong. Um, as I said, there is drama everywhere. So, the first type of drama I've seen a lot of is team drama, coaching drama, and trading drama. So let's go around. Let's go around the table, starting with Kelly. Um, Tell us about the drama going on within your team.
Well, there's not a lot of drama with the Jets right now. Things are going along okay. There's a lot of talk about the trade deadline and what the Jets are going to do coming up to that, because obviously they're going to be making a run for the playoffs. I, I think they're in the playoffs, but whatever.
For the
Um,
cup. Go for the cup.
go for the cup. Yeah. I don't, so there's lots of speculation about like who's available. I can't handle all that speculation because it just like until it actually happens, I don't know. What's the point of like saying, well, this could happen or that could happen? Anyway, people love to talk about it and debate it. Who's available? Who would be good? What are they looking for? Who are they going to pick? I don't know. I don't know. And I think that's really about all the drama that's going on with them right now.
So, like, all right, so good basic, like trade deadline, looking for the future. The
Yeah.
drama associated with a team that is playing well. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, Danica, drama with the Flyers.
So there is the Ducks drama with the Ducks with Cutter Gauthier. And Philly hates him and they will forever hate him. They just basically taunted him the whole game and then I think
Really?
oh yeah, so bad. So bad. Like if you made an enemy of Philadelphia, like you will never and like so and a lot of people I think that Torch like fanned the flames of that a little bit after like the like with it. So he probably did. So that was like
I
the
would
main
not be
thing.
surprised.
Yeah. So like that was like a whole drama that happened like last year, but we're not gonna let it go. So every time they like are gonna, which we don't play the Ducks a lot, like so that was a very hated game. And then I forget who we just played, but like one Ryan Poling just like he got like jabbed like pretty hard. He got taken out of the game, so it like kind of amped the Flyers up to actually win that game. So I'm like, oh great. Like so I think that's
Oh,
the most drama that's happening right now.
Oh, I
Yeah.
just thought of more drama.
oh, yes, 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 yes. More drama, Kelly.
This is about a couple of players, not together, like separately. Um, so one of our defensemen, Logan Stanley, he's a huge guy, not really the best player. Well, I don't think so anyway. And a lot of fans don't think so. And every time they play him, like sometimes he's on the roster, sometimes he's not, sometimes he's sitting out, whatever. Every time they play him, there's this huge controversy on social media about why are they playing Stanley again? He's just a pylon. And then some of the sports commentator type people are saying he's actually pretty good. He's, getting better all the time. And then the fans are like, no, don't get rid of him, don't play him. And then but they keep playing him, and the coaches keep saying he's really improving. And everybody's kind of puzzled about like, why do they keep playing him? They think he's improving, but he doesn't really seem to be improving. So this has been going on all year where the fans are just like, they do not like
Mhm.
this guy, and everybody else does. I don't know. He makes a lot of mistakes. Like,
Yeah.
he's big though. He's big.
Mhm. Is he
That
is
might
he
be the only.
young?
He's not super young. He's been around for
Okay.
a few years.
Maybe
And
they're
then
trying to
the other
highlight him and trade
controversy
him.
is, sorry?
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to trade him. They're trying to show
Yeah,
him off so they can trade him at your deadline
maybe
for
that's the
next week.
strategy.
Huh.
Um,
Who knows?
the other drama is around our backup goalie. Um, Eric Comrie. He Hellebuck likes to play a lot. Our number one goalie likes to play a lot. So they have to like force him to, have a game off every once in a while and play the
Mhm.
backup goalie. The backup goalie has to play some games. Um, and Comrie has been around for quite a while too, and there's lots of questions about like, is he really an NHL level goalie? He played for the Moose for a long time. He's been up and down and around. And he did pretty good the first couple games that he played, but he has now lost, I think, 8 games in a row. Every time they play him, the Jets lose. And it's not that he plays bad, like he actually plays pretty well,
Yeah.
but the Jets playing in front of him just fall apart. Why is that? Like, that's just bizarre. It's one of those superstition kind of things. Like, I don't know what to do about it when they keep losing when they play their backup goalie, but they have to
It's
play.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they do
Yeah.
have to play.
I don't know what you do about that.
It's like there's always been, I don't necessarily know whether with the rest of your teams in terms of goaltending, but there's always been this conversation within Rangers sort of fandom social media about like how the team plays differently in front of, say, and it used to be Lundqvist versus whoever the backup was at the time. And now it's Igor versus Quick and how they play differently. And, does the defense realize who's in the goal and plays differently so that
Yeah.
there's less pressure on Quick or, whatever backup, and they let Igor play, more of the pucks. We don't, you don't know, but you
Don't know.
always look at those games and are like, wait a second, is that what's going on? Or like, or
There
is,
is always that thing about how they play different in front of different goalies. Like, but generally, it's always kind of thought that when the backup goalie comes in, that they're going to play harder for him. But
yeah,
in this case, they're not.
but not so much. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's an interesting.
I
Yeah.
think isn't the other problem that they always think that Hellebuck plays too much, so he's like
Yeah.
tired when it comes to the playoffs. So it's
Yeah.
pretty hard
They're
because they
trying to,
want to play the
they're actually
backup.
trying to play him a little bit less this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Interesting. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. I
No,
interrupted. I jumped in with my
no,
second thoughts.
no, it's good. It's good. Um, because I think there's a lot of like we're watching our teams, we're watching what's going on like in so many levels, and like there's a lot of drama, more so than like there's always like the big story of drama with the team, whether it's a coach, whether it's a star player, and then there's always the behind the scenes conversations about like, oh, I don't know, like
Yeah.
the rookies that aren't allowed to, the minor leaguers that aren't allowed to play. There's a whole different conversations. But when we look at the top line and the players that are supposed to be playing on the top line and then, everything gets dramatic. Mel,
I knew that was my intro. Well,
well,
because
and also it
I
applies to a couple teams, but it definitely applies to yours and it absolutely has applied to mine. So let's start with let's start with you.
I listen to a lot of national hockey podcasts, and when you're, always in Vancouver, in every Canadian market, there's a ton of talk all the time, and people are bitching, even if it's like, well, how come they don't put the fourth line this way? People are always like complaining. But when when your team is leading off the national hockey podcast, that there's lots of drama going on. So where the Canucks, I think, the issue has been that two of our top players, JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, have not been playing well this year. And the rumor was that they didn't get along. And that's why they weren't playing well. And I think I mentioned this last time, but JT Miller took a leave of absence and never revealed why. But it
because he did have an injury, but it wasn't an injury thing. It was clearly something maybe related to mental health or stress or whatever. But we never found out why that was. But anyway, he came back, and since then, there's just been a lot of up and down, but neither one of them has played consistently well. And then this whole thing about them having a feud, and that's why they're not playing well. It's been pretty awful because not only did that, they ask everybody else in the room, and then they ask other people to weigh in, like guys that played on the team years ago, like 5 years ago, are appearing on podcasts and say, well, I noticed this, or Bruce Boudreau. So I think the thing is, Canucks have not been doing well this year. They did really well last year, and everyone thought, oh, it's a step forward. But since they're not doing well this year, everyone's like, well, what's wrong? And there's lots of finger pointing. I think in general, like in any work situation, there's people that you like in the office and there's people that you don't like in the office. And it's fine. But when there's stress, like when the team is losing or when the company is losing money or whatever the thing is, then the worst things come out. So people that maybe got along, like they start to bitch, well, if you were doing your part, then it would be okay. And then like, don't talk to me until, so there's just a lot more stress there. So I feel like, Pedersen and Miller are guys who would never be best friends, but probably can get along when things are going well. But as soon as things get stressful and there's losing, and they both understand that they're super important parts of the team. And that's just the way it's been. I think Pedersen's kind of a quiet person, very quiet, actually, doesn't like talking to the media, doesn't express a lot of emotions. And whereas Miller is completely opposite, like he used to get really upset. You could see him on the bench and he's so stressed out and sad and everything. But so they call him like the heart and soul of the team. But I mean, he does get a little too over, like you can see him yelling at people, on the TV, like especially like at the goalies. It's a couple of times he's been caught yelling at the goalie to get out of the net. So he's yelling at Lincoln, and then Lincoln's like, well, the coach hasn't signaled me to get out of the net. He's staying in there. So you're seeing all these things. So it is like a super dysfunctional family drama right on your hockey broadcast. So I was just saying that I went out to dinner last night, and then I come back and didn't see the game, but they're asking Miller questions in the post game, like, well, how do you feel if this is your last game as Canuck? And I thought, what happened? So apparently, Elliot Friedman said that they were going to hold out JT Miller from the game, and that the Canucks had a deal with the Rangers, which I guess Stacey will get into, but then it fell through. So he played anyway. So anyway, all this, you just go out for a couple of hours and everything hits the fan and you're like,
oh my God,
what's going on? So I don't know. Miller had a really good game last night. Like we beat Edmonton, who's kind of our enemy since last year's playoffs. And I congratulate him on, pulling it together with all those rumors swirling around. But, to be honest, Miller rumors, before he signed his contract, there was rumors like daily that he was going to get traded somewhere. So there's always stuff going on. And I feel sorry for them actually, because there's just too much drama and it needs to be calmed down. And I don't know.
When they're constantly being asked questions by the media about it, and then when there's trade rumors, I think that's awful for the players.
Yeah.
Well, and what can
all
they
the
do? Like,
players.
it's not like they're saying, oh yeah, trade me, I want to be traded. Well, some players do that, but they're not in control of it. So what's the point of asking them about the trade? They don't know. It's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
gonna happen.
Yeah, it's like, the answer becomes like, I want to stay here. This is where I live. This is my family. And this actually goes back into the drama that the Rangers have been having, like all over the place in every single possible way. One of the many facets of the drama of the Rangers that is going to seep into the conversation tonight. So we basically like have been on this ridiculously awful losing streak for most of December. And even before that point. And it was thought that maybe, trading Trouba, which was a whole source of mess and stress that should never have happened in the first place. It ended up happening. And speaking of Anaheim, that is where he is, and I wish him luck and happiness and joy. But still, you have two situations like that that have rocked a close locker room. And to put it, the Rangers' personalities suffered, including our two of our top players, um, Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad, our sort of like two hearts of the team in a lot of ways. Um, a lot of people had said before Trouba got chosen captain that they had wanted Kreider for captain, but he's got a whole bunch of stress related issues and that would just not be a good thing for that to happen. But anyway, so the next set of trade rumors had started, and those rumors surrounded Kreider and Zibanejad, and it was just even worse. And then something happened. Something else happened, which we'll talk about later in the month in the talk tonight. But this is Sam Rosen's last season as broadcaster, and of course, this would be the season that would um, have James Dolan and Optimum, which is one of the largest cable companies in the region, in a fight. So MSG Networks no longer sits on Optimum and is a problem. So a lot of the local subscribers to Optimum cannot get the network. But as soon as this happened, as soon as the results of this happened, the Rangers went on a winning streak. Like they went on a road trip, went on a winning streak, and no one can see the game, so everybody's watching radio or like, or using streaming, and it's like it's ridiculous. It's like, that's kind of the joke. Like, you can't see the game, so they're winning. It's like this pressure. But I mean, there's still drama, obviously. Like these wins had been basically against teams that had not been doing well, including Columbus, who we beat last night. Um, in the middle of all of this, um, a whole bunch of players had been held out of the Hartford game. Hartford is our our AHL team. Top scorers, really good, like young rookies, had been held out of their game for that night, and which with speculation of trade reasons centering around Mika Zibanejad and Vancouver. But there were pieces, and there apparently, according to a couple of the local news people, there were pieces in the deal that the Rangers didn't want to trade, and Vancouver may have been asking for. Brian Berard. No, his last name is Berard. I confuse. It's a B first name. I confuse him with an older player. Anyway, it's Berard is the last name, and it's a B first name. Young, really good rookie, young, really good, like player, was also an ask, but they do not want to trade him because they see a future for him in the system. But yeah, the deal was going to be for JT Miller. And
Yeah,
now
I
hearing who
I
was,
heard they offered Zibanejad, but I heard that Vancouver
yep,
turned them down.
yeah, they offered Zibanejad. They wanted
Yeah.
the story was that they'd also asked in the past for Berard, and they'd also asked in the past for Lafreniere. And the thing is, Capo Caco had just got traded, which is another bit of drama, to Seattle, and he is kicking serious butt. And the player that we got back for him was actually doing kind of good too. But anyway, but because the Rangers did not want to give up players like, Lafreniere or Berard, they said no. But listening to how you talk about him in relation to yelling at goalies, if Drury saw that kind of footage, he would he would not let that in, because I think the Rangers have enough, as I alluded to earlier, the Rangers have enough drama in the locker room, the last thing they need is another like point of that kind of
Well,
another point of tension, I
Miller
should say, in that
already
locker
played.
room.
He already played for the Rangers. I mean, they must know what he's like.
Well, I
They
think there's a
drafted him,
difference.
didn't they?
They did. And he played there as a very young kid for a while, and he couldn't get himself together, which is why they shipped him off to Columbus in the first place, I believe. So like he was young, he was doing great, but he couldn't get himself together in the way that he needed to sort of be the strong player that he is. And I think he got shipped off for Rick Nash, if I'm not mistaken. I'll do a little research and get back to you later, but I think that that's how that went. That they shipped him off to Columbus for Rick Nash and a couple other in like the Rick Nash trade. And I think like as he's gotten older, obviously as you get older as a player, your personality sort of changes and adjusts and sort of because you grow, you learn, right? Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. Players under stress, right? I don't know.
I don't know.
But
I do think with the leave that he took that there must be another issue.
yeah.
Because I don't believe for a minute that he took a leave because he and Pedersen could not get along. That would just be ridiculous. But I mean, he's on the Four Nations Cup team, so
So
he's
not to start anything, but do you have any suspicions about why they don't get along? I'm thinking of this as a romance author because if I was writing this story about these two players on the team that didn't get along, eventually it would have to come out as to what the reason is.
Well, I guess I would say because they're both good players. So at some point, like if you're really good and you're saying, well, how come he gets to tell me what to do? Like I'm better than him. The other thing I think is last year they had a couple of senior players in the room with strong personalities that maybe like help to tramp things down. And the more you get rid of players, the more the dynamics in the room change. So I do think it was a bit of that as well. But I do think most of all, it's just the pressure of losing. So
Yeah.
Interesting. And I have a plot bunny now.
All right.
Awesome. But you actually mentioned the Four Nations, which is interesting because there have been a lot of events and sort of higher profile games that the league has tried to kind of put together, push, organize in a way. And that's one of them. That's in the Four Nations Cup is in place of the All-Star game this year. That's going to be interesting. Are we excited about this? Is this going to be must-see television for any of us?
I'm excited. I think it'll be good to see the countries compete. I mean, it's a lead up to the Olympics, right? Which I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
I'm curious about it because it's like something new and yeah, I'll be watching for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's always interesting because if you're like your team's winning, Kelly, but if your team is losing, sometimes you're like, oh, I'd like to see my team like win. I'd like to cheer for somebody that wins.
Yeah.
Although after the World Juniors this year, I'm not so sure.
That was supposed to be what I would
maybe
cheer
this will be
for.
completely different.
But that didn't work out.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting point, right? Like when when the Four Nations is being selected and with any sort of national team gets selected, right? There are always conversations about who gets on, who doesn't, especially after like a loss, especially after that loss. Like, oh my God, the famous Phil Kessel post when the US lost some major tournament which my memory blanks on what it is, but I remember the post and the post he posted, he's like, there should be something I should be doing right now. And like it's that yes. And it was literally on the day of whether it was like, a national tournament or like the Olympics or something. And it was just kind of hilarious. Like, but I bring it up because one of the biggest conversations that I saw in the wake of Team Canada's loss in the World Juniors was that the old school coaches were picking old school players or something to that effect, and that there were like a whole bunch of players who were high draft picks and like did really, really well, but yet were left off the list of
Mhm.
players. Like, is this something that we all think about after a loss? Like, do you sit there and sort of go, well, if they'd had these players, is this part of all of your thought process? And also, do you think that they made the right choices? Like, we can talk, whichever, like whether it's Four Nations, whether it's like the women's team, whatever you guys think. Like,
I think in the case of the Canadian World Junior team, the comments came right away before the lawsuit.
Mhm.
People were
Yeah.
like, "Well, that guy's the highest scoring player, and on his team in the league, in the CHL and WHL, and he's not on the team." Like people were shocked. And this whole idea
Yeah.
is like we're going to take these character players, well, like, and then I think their best defenseman got injured in the very first game,
Mhm.
and so they could have called up like one of these high. So it was kind of like we're going to go for character instead of scoring and creativity. But
Mhm.
then they took so many penalties, so it's like, what kind of character do these guys have? They're just
Mhm.
getting penalty
Right.
after penalty, so it doesn't seem like they have character either.
Yeah, it was apparently I didn't pay that much attention to the World Juniors this year. I was on a deadline and I didn't have time. Um, but I did see that same conversation about how there were a lot of players who are predicted to be first round draft picks who did not get picked for Team Canada, which kind of doesn't make sense. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know what their selection
Yeah.
criteria was, character, or I don't know,
I think
but
it was the same thing as Phil Kessel too. I heard the CHL was like tweeting out, during the game that these
yeah.
players were scoring like during the World Junior, the
Oh,
losses. Oh, Jack Perez
What the
just
heck?
scored. Oh, this guy, like in their games at home, and so it was like, okay.
well, and there's as far as the four continents, is that what it's called? Yeah,
Our nations.
Four Nations.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's figure skating. Um, there was so much talk about Mark Scheifele from the Jets not being picked to be on the team. Now he had kind of a weird season. There was a period of time where he was not playing great, like he wasn't taking faceoffs. He's a center and he wasn't taking faceoffs. So there was all this
Mm.
speculation that
Mhm.
Kelly's freezing.
maybe he had some kind of
So,
So,
mind through. And then why didn't
oh, you were freezing, so we didn't get
yeah,
everything that you said.
oh was I frozen?
Yeah.
partially, yeah.
But I did hear that there's another thing called revenge of the rejected players. So like Mark
Yeah,
Scheifele like really took off after the Four
Mhm.
Nations roster was
exactly.
Yep.
announced and did
Yeah,
really well.
yeah, yeah. I'll show you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. Like,
Right?
it, no, it's like I think if they penalized every center or every forward who couldn't like do a face-off well, like a lot of people would be penalized, especially some of the people on that like on
Mm.
on, on any of the rosters for sure.
But if you have cup aspirations, maybe you're kind of happy that your best players weren't
Yeah.
selected. You're thinking,
That's a good
oh,
point.
like I don't
Yes.
want them to go and get
You want
injured
them
and
to get
play
hurt.
so hard and come back. I want them to have like go on a beach and have a great time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, good point.
Lovely. Speaking of beaches and having a great time, um, did we all see the announcement for the Winter Classic and Stadium Series games for next year?
Oh, in Miami.
Yep.
Yeah.
Winter Classic,
Two Florida
yeah,
games,
Winter
right?
Classic in Miami
Florida.
and the Stadium Series in Tampa.
Yeah. Raymond James. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well,
What do we think about this?
I guess they're trying to get some Florida fans.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, it's
I mean,
nice
like
that it's not Chicago again for crying out
Yes,
Tampa.
loud.
that's
Like Tampa has like a big like hockey following. So like they at least do have a market. It's the Florida market that is like really struggles, like the Sunrise market. But I
Yeah.
think Tampa like I think because they have been really good is why they have like they do have a fan base.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, okay, well they do have a fan base, but having a Florida is weird. I and if we want to get into Winter Classic, because I know we were all like, oh, there was a Winter Classic this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like for me, I think the novelty of it has worn off because at first it was just the Winter Classic. It would be New Year's Day and it would be one game. And then they started introducing all these other games and I just like stopped caring. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Agree,
yeah.
agree totally. Like make it one game and that's it. One
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what it used to
Yep.
be. And it was like, oh, this exciting thing. And then I guess it was because like other teams were complaining, like, well, why don't we get one? Why do these like which I understand, like there should have been a more fair reason for which p teams they picked. But then it was like there were six
Like the
outdoor
same
games
ones.
a season, and it's like I don't care anymore. Like
Yeah.
that's how I feel, and
Yeah.
I don't know if other
That's,
people feel the same way. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like
I
No,
mean,
Vancouver's
yeah.
only had one, and but that's fine. I mean, it was a pretty drama. It was more drama at that one. But yeah, I think one game and make it a big event and make it on the same day. Don't like switch the day
yeah,
up.
that's the thing about this year. Like they moved the game to the day before, and it's like, and
Mm.
it got lost in the whole bunch of like normal hockey day schedule stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's that's like part of the novelty
Yeah.
of like
I
getting up and
think
like New Year's. Hmm?
I can't remember in past years, were there any other games like played during the Winter Classic? I feel like no, because it was New
I don't
Year's
think so.
Day.
New Year's
That
Yeah.
was it.
Day.
So I
Yeah.
think that's what made it more
Mhm.
special too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like it's not. Yeah, it's the same series of team, a lot of the same series of teams that do it.
Mhm.
And yes, like I will say though that like I thought about the next year's game versus Florida, and it actually makes a lot of sense. You're talking about, Danica, how Sunrise has a problem for a hockey market.
They always
You know
have.
who's down there in Florida? Snowbirds from New
Yeah,
York. So they're
Oh
gonna get the
yeah.
snowbirds and they're gonna get the locals,
that is
hopefully
a
like
really good
in my
point.
But the
Yeah.
Snowbirds are always there. Are they going to
yeah.
the Panthers
Oh
game?
yeah, like if you watch a Rangers Panthers game, you'll see like like it's
Really?
a very, very heavily attended Ranger
Oh,
game,
so
for
you
lack of a
mean
better
like
Yeah,
word.
the opponent has to be from like Montreal or something, and that'll bring the crowd in?
I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
I think I've noticed that too when the Jets play down there that there's a lot of Jets fans in the stands.
Yeah.
Same thing
Florida
in Arizona.
Florida in the state in general is a very relo state as well.
yeah.
So there's a ton of people that are not like Florida natives that live there. Like,
Yeah.
so it's a lot of like upstate New York, especially that
Yeah.
area too. It's like
Mhm.
upstate, it's like basically upstate New York.
Yeah.
It is. And then like a lots of people from PA and in New Jersey and like all that. So it is interesting. Like
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of transplants in Florida,
Yep.
especially in that area. So it's pretty so I almost feel like there's not a lot of native Floridians.
Yeah.
Not as much. Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
they're trying to like get people more interested, like that. What
And
they
the
do
Panthers have
in
been
conjunction.
good. Like
Yeah.
they've had good years, so it's like I'd hope they've like accumulated more fans. I've gotten like, we can say what we want about bandwagon fans, but I think that does like get people interested when a team like
Yep.
starts to get really good and then be like, oh,
Hmm.
I didn't know we had a hockey team. What's hockey? Like, so I do feel like
Yep.
that can help too, but I just feel like they've really struggled as like a market,
Yeah.
even when they have a good team in front of them, which is like unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see like also like what they do in terms of the NHL, like with the outside events, like how they
Yeah.
bring people in, who they ask to come in. Like there are a lot of great opportunities that they could have in Florida with the community. I know the Panthers have done really great work in terms of hosting the AmeriGoal competition, if memory serves, um,
What's that?
where players and teams from South American countries and a couple of other countries, I'll find um, come to the Florida Panthers facility and play. And it's
Oh.
like a tournament. And it's a really, really cool thing.
Hmm.
Um, and whether it was started by the Panthers owner or someone like within the Panthers organization, it does not, I don't remember, but it's a pretty big, like it's a pretty interesting, really cool thing. Like they said Mexico and Colombia had a team there. Again, it's a really, really interesting and really cool like
Yeah.
mix of countries and cultures playing hockey in Florida. So it would be interesting to see something like that in conjunction with the Winter Classic. Like, but again, like there's a whole bunch of opportunities. We'll see if they actually, as I said, we'll see if they actually do something with it. But that's something I think about. Um, let's see. We're excited about the Olympics. Yes, we're all excited about the Olympics. The NHL players are going to be participating in the next Olympics.
Yeah. I like the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, it'll be great.
And let's see. Have we been watching the PWHL at all?
I have not.
Never.
I see they're setting attendance records though.
Yep.
Yeah, they
Cool.
apparently they did really well in Vancouver. In fact, the tickets were sold out before I even knew the game was on. I'm
Yeah.
like, I should go.
Well, that's
It's
good.
too late.
Yeah.
That's good.
I
Yeah,
think
no,
that's
they're
good, and I guess they're going to expand. It's probably like a step in their expansion. I had to try out these different
they're
markets.
testing out these exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Testing
like
out
in Denver, they were
exactly.
chanting they wanted a team. So
Yep. Apparently, like it was like where is the where did I wrote the statistic down. That was really awesome. Someone I know from my romance knitting group was at the game in Pepsi Ball Arena, and
wait, you
she
have
had
a
a
romance knitting
blast.
group?
I had, yeah. It was wonderful. A whole bunch of writers and readers got together during the depths of 2020 all the way to like 2023 and knit every Sunday for a couple hours. It's great.
So you're like
Knit and
knitting and
crafted.
talking about romance, or like, oh,
We
cool.
knit
Oh,
and
that's
then like
cool.
we would talk about the books we're reading. Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Denver game broke records. I didn't write down exactly how much of a record that they broke, but they did break attendance records.
And didn't they do well
And
in Seattle, I think?
yeah, I think so. I know that there was a lot of publicity about the Seattle game because Lexi Brown was there.
Well, and then
And so
they had
it
the
was
thing
like
with Jessica, what's her last name? The coach from Seattle?
Campbell. Yep.
Yeah, so they did a whole thing with her. That was really nice.
She was just here the other night when the Kraken played here.
Oh yeah.
And I guess she's from Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
So she
Yeah.
had lots of family and friends here, and she was up in the stands signing things and posing for pictures, and that was really cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
I saw her sign it. Somebody got a Seattle jersey made with her name on it and got her to sign.
Oh,
That's so cool.
yeah.
I love
I
that
wish
so much.
Seattle was doing better, because then that would help other women.
Oh my gosh. So here's another sort of thought, just because we've talked about all these different games, you've talked about like ways to see them. But here's a problem. What do you do when you lose local sports media? I know that a couple of years ago, I know Edmonton may have had this problem, and I know like a couple of CBC local stations have closed down in terms of sports. Um, what do you do? Like, how do you access the information? Um, I'm thinking about this a lot for a lot of reasons, but the primary one is the fact that I alluded to earlier, which is that James Dolan and MSG Networks are in a fight with Optimum, which is one of the larger cable providers in the region where I normally watch my hockey games. Um, and they also carry PWHL games. For the New York Sirens. So literally like this fight that has taken MSG Networks off the local cable companies broadcasting tier has made these games unavailable. And the first thing I thought of was PWHL, how they have games that are accessible on Twitch and on YouTube. We talked about the various ways before, but basically one of the benefits of those is that the games are accessible. No matter what market you live in, you can turn on your Twitch or your YouTube and watch the game. right? No matter what cable company is fighting with whom, you know that it is available, that it is right there on your phone or your computer. So, aside from like, but that sort of basic idea made me think, right? It's not just access to television, but also like sports media. Like, so what do you do when your favorite sport source of sports media is gone? How do you deal with that? What do you access?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't, he's had a couple examples there. I haven't heard of it happening in Canada. I mean, I've been hearing about it happening in the States, but
Yeah.
you can get cable, you can get the games. Your biggest issue would be to get a game of a team that you follow that isn't in your market. So let's say I'm
Yes.
a Kings fan
Yeah.
or something, it would start to be hard for me to get Kings games or whatever. But if I like Vancouver and I live in Vancouver, I'm going to get the games.
Yeah. There's been talk about this Amazon Prime thing
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
maybe it's moving that way, that every game will be streamed instead of broadcast on a network.
Yeah, I watched one of the games on Prime. It's
And you
weird.
can
That
watch it
thing they do
wherever
at the
you are,
beginning.
whatever
Yeah.
team you cheer
Yep.
for.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's a sort of an interesting aspect of things and like
Yeah.
where it's an interesting, as I said,
I think
it's an
there's just
interesting.
so many hockey fans here. They would just be in such big trouble if they
Yeah,
started.
they've
Oh, yeah.
from what I have heard, Optimum has been paying over like hundreds of dollars to very angry sports fans and potentially more for the loss of the network. Of course, it doesn't help that their app is awful, that the Gotham Sports app, whatever, is awful. I know that the Yankees are much better at fighting for broadcast access for games um, than Dolan and the Rangers, but it's, as I said, it's interesting. Like but like thinking about local media, like I've seen like a lot of local sports media go to like podcasts and like sort of um, newsletters and sort of private, personal sort of forms of broadcasting. So we will see what happens and how everything sort of what's the word I'm looking for resolves itself. So I think it is now time for our wildest thing.
I just want to say one thing. For Philly is in a unique situation with that because they are owned by Comcast, which is the broadcast company. So I don't think we would ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which is
Yeah.
weird, which is a weird thing. Like,
Yeah.
other. So
Good
yeah,
news for Danica, though.
Yeah. No, it's yeah.
It's good and
Yeah.
bad because like a lot of people I think were using Sling and I was like, oh well, Comcast won't let you use that. So like I had
Yeah.
to, so like there's good and bad things about it. But that is interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
We can go on the wildest
It
things.
is interesting. Yes. The trials and tribulations of how as a sports fan to access your favorite team.
A
Um
VPN.
That's what
yes.
you just do, Jason.
Seriously. Oh Lord. Um seriously, I'm gonna have actually the discussion about VPNs for other things, but it's another story entirely. Um speaking of wild conversations about VPNs and other forms of media, we are at our wildest thing. Does anyone want to start?
I'll go first because mine's just a short one. I just thought it was funny last night in the Penguins game. Their goalie, Alex Nedeljkovic, scored a goalie goal. I love goalie goals. Yeah.
They're fun. Yes.
And he is the only player who has a goal and an assist in his career, which I thought was very cool. I'm especially interested in this because I just finished writing a goalie story. So in my story, he does not score a goal, but he does think, I want to score a goal. Goalie goals are cool.
Yeah, I saw them
Anyways, I thought that was, I
Yeah.
always love goalie goals. They're fun.
They're
I saw them in
amazing.
the Penguins change room when they were saying all you needed was a fight and you would have had the Gordie Howe hat.
Oh, no. Yeah. Okay, my goalie does get in a fight.
Ooh, a goalie fight?
A goalie
Goalie
fight.
fights are so cute.
I haven't seen a goalie fight in a really long time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm trying to
Okay.
remember. Like,
You need like to play Jordan Binnington all the time. He's like ready
Yeah.
to fight.
I think no, I think the
Yeah.
last goalie fisticuffs that was Ranger related involved a player that just got kicked out of the KHL.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
So
Speaking of
yeah.
KHL, Stacey, that player that you hate, I hear he's hated in the KHL now.
Yep.
Oh.
They just kicked him out, and I'm like,
Oh, great.
good riddance to bad rubbish, as they say. Um, oh my gosh. Speaking of goalies, I'll just drop this briefly in. My fun wildest thing was one of the best things that came out of um the announcement of the Miami Rangers Panthers Winter Classic is a conversation that may come to fruition involving Roberto Luongo and Henrik Lundqvist on social media, whereby the two of them decided that they should both potentially come out of retirement and have fun for one day, or potentially organize an alumni game
Oh,
for Florida. And I think that's amazing. Like I've loved Luongo as a player, especially when he stood up during, whether like his heart was at such in the right place during the aftermath of the Parkland shooting. And I love Hank, period. So the two of them just having that fun discussion and seeing what comes of that is going to be great. So
But you know what happened at Vancouver's only outdoor game when Luongo was our starting goalie? Torts put Eddie Lack in instead. And then
oh,
Luongo said, trade me. Like I've had enough. I've had enough of this. So
mhm.
Luongo hasn't actually played an outdoor
Yep.
game as far as
I
I know. So this
remember.
is his big chance.
Whereas
So,
Whereas Hank has, and
Yeah.
I want to say he famously, was it in the Flyers game that he like famously stopped a penalty shot or something? Yeah, he stopped someone.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might have been when they played them. Do you remember when the Canucks had like the Canucks TV and they would have Luongo like read poetry?
oh yeah, that's right. Then he put a little
I
cap
just
on.
yes.
It's so funny.
I just always think about that because they were just so funny.
Yeah. Oh God, I love it.
Okay. Do you want to go, Danica, or should I
I don't
go?
really have anything. I
Oh,
guess the
okay.
Cutter stuff is the wildest thing for the
Yeah.
Flyers.
My wildest thing came up when the Canucks played against Seattle, I think about 10 days ago. And it became known that our new player from Boston, Jake DeBrusk, has a stalker. And
Oh,
she was banned from TD Gardens in Boston because she was always harassing him and his girlfriend and saying, why doesn't Jake go out with me? I would be so good for him. I'm way better than I think Mia, his
this
girlfriend.
sounds like Kate Willoughby's last book.
I know, that's right. That's right.
Sorry.
Well, the stalker fan is a thing I've read a few times, I think, in hockey romances, that
Yeah.
they're troubled or there's something going on or there's somebody kind of crazy. But yeah, Kate's book was a lot like that. So this woman had bought a ticket to go to Seattle and see him, but somehow they got flagged right away. And she says, "Oh, the ticket won't scan." So what the reason everyone knows this is she tweets out these long streams of consciousness things. She says, I went to the Seattle game. They wouldn't let me in. This is ridiculous. I want to move to Vancouver and be in sports media, and then I'm going to become a doctor. And it's like, ooh. But apparently she has been harassing him for years. When he was traded, he told them up front that this was the situation because I guess they had sort of like taken care of it and banned her in Boston, but she was consistently trying to contact him, trying to come to the games and everything. So, and there was even a thought, and I hope this isn't true, that was one of the reasons he was willing to leave Boston because he just
Yeah.
wanted to get clear of this person. So, I mean,
That's crazy.
it is. It's just
Wow.
like shocking. I was like, well,
Bad.
my husband's like, Jake DeBrusk? What? It just goes to show you that it doesn't matter like what the person
like,
looks like or how good they are or whatever.
yeah,
You
exactly.
just
Like they,
somebody becomes fixated on you. So
It's scary though, because I'm afraid that the only thing that will like, I mean, things can go too far, obviously if somebody who has mental health issues and gets fixated and like you don't know how far they'll go.
well, it does make you wonder just when you read her tweets, like, is
Yeah,
anyone in her life that is helping her or stalking her?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
how does she have
yeah.
money to fly across and buy tickets and do everything? I don't know. But maybe she's not. I don't know. I guess there's a
That's
bad.
scary.
It's pretty good though that they are able to find you, like find your
yeah.
ticket and know
Yes.
who you are and
Mhm.
what's going
That
on.
they have the
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. She's
Absolutely.
got sort of like an average name. So I don't know. I just think it is crazy. And you're right, it's exactly out of a book plot. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Mhm. Wow.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Are we
I
doing
think
books reps now?
yep,
Okay.
it is that time of the evening.
Let me share. I always feel like I can't see it when I share, and that just shared everything. Hang on, guys. Can you guys see it? There's like some weird pop-up that just came
yeah,
up.
we can see the
Yep.
pop.
You can see the
Okay.
pop-up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So there's just four of us. Mel, do you want to go?
Yeah, the Canucks did some like a photo shoot, like a special photo shoot with Canucks gear and made everybody look really good. Like even Quinn Hughes, who always looks like the saddest person on the planet. Good at this. Tyler Myers looks super hot. But of course, Brock Besser, who already looks good, looked really good in this photo shoot. So I was kind of depressed when, after all the losses. So I just thought, I'm just going to go back in the files and find a photo where everybody looks really great and
That
happy.
is very nice.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, Stacy, you want to explain yours?
So, because the Rangers have been giving such pain comparatively recently, I decided, and during the time that the Rangers were having their awful streak, I found joy in the New York Sirens. And I joked that it was a wonderful experience to watch a New York team win a hockey game when I was watching a Sirens game, that they've actually been playing well this year. So this year, in last year's draft, the top pick, one of their top picks was Ella Harcha, and she is my best dressed. This was the game for breast cancer. Um, I love the sort of casualness of the outfit, but also like the very sort of seriousness at the same time. The black leather jacket and the pink, the dark red, the dark sort of pink, slightly red pants. Just the very sort of comfortableness, but also the seriousness. And of course the sign, who does she fight for? She fights for her grandmother. So
I like the PWHL players when they do the walk-ins, they always
yep.
look so happy that they're being
Yep.
photographed. Yeah.
That's great. That's
Okay, Kelly, who's your guy?
Okay, so that picture is Dylan Sandberg from the Winnipeg Jets, and he's not exactly the best dressed, but they're heading off on a road trip. So he's getting
Is
on the
this in
plane.
Winnipeg?
And what's that?
Is that Winnipeg? Because I think I've been in that gangway.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Uh you can tell it's cold because he's wearing a hat. A
Yeah.
toque. A toque for all you Americans. The main reason that I picked him is because he's my new favorite player after I watched a TikTok video that his wife did. If you have a chance to look at it, if you can get TikTok, his wife is Des Sandberg, Samberg, and she did this. I think it's one of her pinned TikToks. She did this dancing TikTok and roped him into doing it, and it's absolutely hilarious. And he was such a good sport to see a hockey player like that doing that. It was funny. So that's Dylan Sandberg.
That's awesome.
Okay, so I did not have good ones to pick from. around right now. But so earlier in the month, the Flyers did like an Ed Snyder legacy game. So they had all of the players walk in with this jersey. It says Snyder, you can't really see. But they had them all like wear that, so I just thought it was like a fun thing to talk about. And they also the Ed Snyder Foundation is like this foundation that we have here. It's in like New Jersey, but it's like for underprivileged kids to be able to play hockey. It's like pretty like well established and a really great like youth hockey organization up here. And the Flyers charities also gave them like a ton of money for it, like out during this game. So it was like a good like charity thing as well.
Very cool.
Great.
Yep.
And then I think actually I heard some kind of like the Jewish Museum in Philadelphia did partnered with the Flyers for Jewish American Heritage Night, and I think part of the reason was Ed Snyder,
Mhm.
if memory serves. Like his memory and legacy is also tied to that museum as well. So that's very cool. So I think we are at that time of the night. It is almost 9 o'clock. It's been a great night. We do any of us have book news to share?
Well, I had a release a week ago. Yeah, actually a week ago today. This is
Awesome.
my new release with my new publisher. So here's the book. And so that's it.
Awesome. Mazel tov. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay.
Great. Yeah.
Available wherever books are sold?
Yeah.
Excellent. Anybody else have book news to share?
Oh. Okay.
All right. So I guess we will see you in February.
What date did you say?
That's 16th.
The 16th.
February 16th. Okay. Awesome.
I hope all of you have a wonderful January, and may your teams play well, and may you all get the news that you want.
Less drama.
Yes, less drama. May February be a less drama-filled month.